Welcome back to Tania's Truth Talk on the Harpreet Singh Show. Before the commercial break, we were speaking with Glendene Grant, the mother of the famous Jessie Foster. I'd like to welcome Glendene back. And Glendene, we were speaking earlier about how your family, through all of this sadness, has come to the Lord. And it just goes to show that, you know, God can take hardships and sadness and still turn it around for His glory, because now you have a radio talk blog, you've got a lot of websites, you're rescuing and raising awareness on human trafficking, and this is all positive.
It is. And who would have ever thought it? You know, I mean, it's medicinal to me to help others. So that part is you know, kind of
Gives you a purpose.
yeah,
You have a
it's like
purpose.
everybody thanks me for doing what I've done for them when I'm doing it somewhat to help myself too, so I can be
Right.
there for my other kids, right? I need to. But it definitely makes a difference when you can close your eyes at night and then be able to fall asleep. You know, it took a while for me to get there.
Right.
And I do that because I know while I am sleeping, I do know that somebody is out there watching over Jessie. I do know that she's not alone.
Right.
And little things like, you know, it's the old cliche, you know, when you look up at the moon at night
Yes.
and you know that she's somewhere else in the world
Yes.
looking up at that same moon.
Yes.
You know, it's those types of things, you know, those are the things that you can see and grasp onto, and that's necessary. But as far as, you know, just knowing that God is there for me, if it wasn't for that, like I had said earlier, Jessie's father isn't faring so well.
Right.
His health has
He's not a
failed.
believer.
He's not a believer, never has been, even when we were together.
Okay.
Which was back when I was still angry at God, so that's why it wasn't a problem for us.
So what would you say it was that actually made you believe stronger instead of turn the other way and get angry at God?
Well, it was because when I started becoming a mother myself, I think it actually was when I hit the age of 24,
Okay.
and I had yet to even become a mother.
Right.
And that was the age that my sister had died at.
Okay.
I never felt younger in my entire life.
Oh my.
And I never realized how young my sister was when she died
Right.
until I hit that age.
Right.
And it was just, I don't even know. It's hard to, how do you explain?
Well, and you were saying
God,
you were
right?
saying that through the whole ordeal of Jessie going missing, that this has actually brought your family
It has.
closer to the Lord. So can you explain to us and take us back to that point and what exactly the time was and what happened with Jessie that made you guys come closer to the Lord, and get more into the you know, the story of Jessie and how this happened all in the beginning and how you found out?
Definitely. Well, the way it happened with us all coming together is I sat the kids down one day, the girls
Okay.
down, and I said, okay, you know, this isn't going to be short. She's not going to be back at the end of
Tomorrow.
the week or
Yeah.
the end of the month. So I need you guys to live as normal lives as you can.
Yes.
Let me take this on. Let me
Oh.
take Jessie's case on. So
Right.
you can be mothers one day.
Right.
So you can not go enter your 20s a crazy person.
Right.
And I told them that, and then they're worried about me. How can you do this, Mom? And I'm like, no, Mom has help. Mom's
You're a
not
mama
doing
bear.
this alone,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, because they know. I mean, I pray all the time. They come in and catch me sometimes, you know, with my music cranked, singing really loud, and other
Yes.
times praying. And
Right.
so it's not new to them.
Right.
And so it didn't really need us to kind of come together on it. They just knew Mom just needed to start handling it.
So how did you initially get the news that Jessie was missing? How did this come about?
Well, so when Jessie, well, I'll tell you first, well, when Jessie was 16, she wanted to go live with her dad in Calgary.
Okay.
Because she'd never lived with him. We had separated when she was a month and a half old. She
Okay.
didn't know what Dad was like to live with, just vacationing.
Right.
And she said, I'm in grade 11.
Yes.
If I don't do it now, I'll never be able to do it as a kid. I'll never know what it's like to live with Dad as a kid.
Right.
So she moved there in grade 11.
Yes.
Her thought was, if I like it, I'll stay and graduate. If I don't, I'll come back and graduate with the same kids I did kindergarten with.
Right.
And she loved it. So she stayed. Well, when she was 17 years old, she was dating a fellow who put on hip hop shows.
Okay.
And at this hip hop show, she met this other fellow.
Okay.
And this guy took kind of a liking to Jessie, and it was her
Right.
ex-boyfriend from that time that told us about him.
Right.
And said, you know, how he was a violent person. And so that's how we started later focusing on him.
Okay.
But 3 years later, when Jessie was 20, she moved back to Kamloops.
Right.
And phone calls from this fellow she'd met at 17 started happening quite frequently.
Okay.
And he invited her to go on a holiday to Florida. I wasn't happy, didn't want it to happen.
And how old was she?
She was 20.
Okay. Yes.
So when we ended up, she says, I'll be okay, Mom. You know, you worry too much. And she went, she came back, beautiful pictures. And I thought, oh, I must have worried too much.
Oh, okay.
Second, you know, a few weeks later, a second trip is coming up.
Right.
We want to go to Manhattan and Atlantic City. And I said, well, no, nobody does all this for free. Nobody
Yes.
takes anybody on holidays
Yes.
for free. She went. Instead of bringing her back the day she was supposed to come back to Canada,
Right.
they took her to Las Vegas.
Right.
It was May 13th, 2005, and it was 2 weeks to the day before her 21st birthday. So if you think about that, Las Vegas, 21 years old,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Right.
Her first thing was, I'm going to stay till my birthday.
Right.
Birthday comes, when are you coming home? I was in a car accident. Now we have to wait for insurance.
Right.
Weeks go by, when are you coming home? I met a guy. When are you
Yes.
coming home? I'm engaged. When are you coming home? I'm living with him. He's wealthy, lots of money, we're in
Right.
love.
So this is a classic example
Exactly
of
a classic.
how we really need to educate the public and let them know that pimps pose as boyfriends.
Exactly.
People tend to have this false tendency that a pimp is walking around with a big top hat and a leopard skin, you know, pants and
boyfriends.
leather jacket and all these gold chains and stuff. That is not the way
No, not anymore.
that it actually is. They pose as the boyfriend, and what they do is the goal is they will try to make the girl fall in love with her within a short period of time. During that time, they're finding all the information on the family, the cousins, the brothers, the uncles, and all that. Make
All
the
the
girl,
females,
yeah, fall in
sisters.
love, get her out of the safety zone, take her out of her hometown, out of the safety zone, isolate. And now, if you try and escape, if you try and get away from me,
I'll get
we're
your
going to
sister.
find you. We're going to get you. We know where your mother lives. We know where your father lives. We know where your brothers and uncles.
Yeah,
So these
exactly.
girls are still
He had our
floating
phone
around there.
numbers.
Their flesh is being bought and sold, and there's nothing that the authorities can do about it because the girls will not go and testify.
And they assume that if she wants to go into their country and their city and break
Right.
the law, then why should they do anything
This is
to
where
help
they're
me?
perpetrating on the women, and they're criminalizing the women. And this is where I love the MP
blaming
Joyce
the
Smith
victims.
for
Oh.
bringing in the Nordic model.
That's
And what the
right.
Nordic model is, as you and I both know,
It-
is it persecutes the John,
Yes.
the recruiter, the pimp.
And it
Why
helps
criminalize the
girls.
girl?
Yeah, it
You
helps
know?
them. It gives them a way out.
Yes,
an
it
option
gives
to get
them a
out
way
if
out
they
because
want.
Jessie didn't have a way out. She doesn't have a way out.
No, exactly.
You know?
Now, when Jessie was down there, it was 10 months from the time she was taken there May 13th till
Right.
she went missing March 29th of 2006.
Right.
She came home once. We actually thought she wasn't going to go back. It was Christmas time of 05.
Yes.
She went back. It was on Christmas Day. Now, that also tells you the control. To make her
Yes.
get up Christmas morning,
Yes.
no flight booked, no plans made, planning to go to my father's house for Christmas
Right.
dinner, and she says, I need a ride to the airport. So
Right.
now what happened the whole time Jessie was there is she kept in touch with us. If she wasn't calling her sisters every day or
Yes.
me, she was calling her friends.
That's an
she was text
interesting
messaging.
point that you bring that across, Glendene, because so many times I talk to parents, I do speeches at schools and things like that, and I say, just because your daughter is calling you does not mean she's okay, because these
No, you're
pimps are
right.
so crafty, they are so manipulative. They will get the daughter to phone home and go, hi, Mom and Dad, everything's great, I'm in love, it's all fine. And as long as the parents are getting that phone call, they relax a little
fine.
bit, then there's no missing persons report.
That's right.
And their
But
child
you know
is
what
being
happened, though?
sold.
That actually is what made us know. Those
Right.
that constant contact. When she talked to her sister one day
Right.
and said, I'll talk to you tomorrow,
Yes.
and then the next day Crystal couldn't reach her, and then the next
Yes.
day Katie couldn't reach her,
Right.
we were on it.
Right.
You wouldn't even suspect somebody in the same city as being missing that soon.
Wow.
But we knew.
Yeah.
Something was wrong. Jessie called us
Mother's
every single
instinct.
solitary day. She would,
Right.
and when we're all calling her, call.
Yes.
Why aren't you calling? And I'm emailing my emails got to, hey, Jess, where are you? Jess, I'm worried, to all caps, which is me yelling at her.
Where are you?
Phone me! Yeah,
Yeah.
and I still have those emails.
Oh my.
And then I have the email that I sent to all the family members that I don't know, but I think Jesse's missing.
Yes.
And the police made us wait to make the report because her father was in Mexico at a stepdaughter's wedding. Well, don't you know, she might have gone there and not told anyone, so now we have to
Right.
wait for that. So it wasn't until April 9th that we even got to file a missing persons report.
So she was missing in 2006.
Yes.
What month?
Now, and March 29th was
And then when did you make the missing persons report?
April. So it was, 11 days.
Okay.
And the cops went to the house where she was living 11 days later.
Yes.
He opens the door, they go, everything looks fine. And they left. And they said she probably ran off to start a new life. I'm like, well, ran off from where? She's from Canada.
Yes.
She had already gone away. If she
Yeah.
wanted to start a new life away from her family, she didn't have to go anywhere.
Well, so many times, the authorities tended to believe that these women were, just going, or they say, I got into prostitution by choice. And I say it is never a choice.
No.
Okay, these women are getting into it by manipulation, coercion. They're being forced into
Brainwashed.
it. They're being
Brainwashed into
brainwashed
thinking
or
that
out
they're
of fear.
choosing it.
And poverty, of course. A
And
lot of women.
drugs.
Drugs, yes.
I mean, there's so many things. Jesse's story was told in Benjamin Parent's book, Invisible Chains.
I know
and
Benjamin Parent. He's doing amazing work right now. He wrote the book Invisible Chains. He's working for the Prime Minister's office, and he's making quite a difference in regards to human trafficking. Yes. So thank you for coming on the show today, Glendene, and we'll see you again next week to share more of Jesse's story. It was such a pleasure to have you here with me today.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you.
Thanks. You're watching Tania's Truth Talk on the Harpreet Singh Show. See you back next week.